In one of my favorite biblical passages from the book of Joel, this is the setting. It is a day of darkness and gloom. The densest cloud spreads like soot over the hills. Nothing like this has ever happened, and it shall never happen again, prophesies Yoel. Ish bidrachav yelechu. Each keeps to their own track. Their paths never cross. No one jostles another. Each keeps to their own course. And then, just like in the time of trouble that we hear about in our Torah portion, and also in the time earlier in the Torah portion of the sabbatical and Jubilee year, the shofar is sounded in Zion, the people work together, and then there is enough food. And then our text reads, and then the Spirit of God is poured out over all flesh, and the old shall dream dreams, and the youth shall see visions. And as Debbie Friedman continues, and I've sung in many a nifty song session, and the old shall dream dreams, and the youth shall see visions, and our hopes shall rise up to the sky. We must live for today. We must build for tomorrow. Give us time, give us strength, give us life. Friends, I'm thinking a lot about our teens this Shabbat for many reasons. The first reason I'm thinking of our teens is a treat which you'll get to see next Shabbat. The amazing group of student teachers from our religious school, mental health advocates, out of the cold volunteers, deep thinkers asking questions about the theology of angels and their connection of mitzvot to their daily lives. These are our teens, our grade 10 confirmation class. Before they lit candles for our congregation last night, Rabbi Goodman, Rabbi Splansky, and I had the opportunity to bless them. And at the end of each blessing, I concluded, Vayasem lecha shalom, and may God give you the most precious gift, the gift of peace. For those that know Hebrew well, they know that my translation is a poetic one. Vayasem lecha shalom, and may God give you the most precious gift, the gift of peace. This liturgical poetry is not my own and predates me. To me, they are the words that Rabbi H. Philip Berkowitz said to me when I was a confirmand. I was an active teen in my synagogue. My mother was the synagogue librarian, and I was convinced to attend youth group events. But then I went on my first Nifty Gur retreat, the North American Federation of Temple Youth's Garden Empire Region's Winter Kala at URJ Camp Kutz. I think it was Jessica Fershine who song led, and I still remember the melody she used to Modi Menach Nulach, which I think only appears in limited edition Shirenus. I remember the session on Reform Judaism and proselytizing that I believe it was Rabbi Brian Immerman who led, parts of which I reuse in my own teaching today, and the Havdalah at the end of Shabbat, where we, most likely forbidden today, passed a kiss around the spiral from the middle of the room out. A sweet kiss, as sweet as Rabbi Isaac Meir Wise's Nishikat HaSmecha, passed between the people who are now the rabbis and cantors of our movement. I remember sleeping in the old wing of Kutz before it burned down, before Kutz was sold, before the transition amongst the storm. The author of Joel surely knew our parashah, summarizing it and giving voice to a moment when it is realized. The two texts talk to one another. The second half of our double-barreled parashah begins, Im b'chukotai telechu, vet mitzvotai tishmeru, v'asitem otam. If you follow my laws and faithfully observe my commandments, v'natati Gishmechem bi'itam, I will grant your rains in their seasons, so that the earth shall yield its produce and the trees of the fruit. Your threshing shall overtake the vintage, and your vintage shall overtake the sowing. Va'achaltam lachmechem lasova, and you shall eat your fill of bread, and dwell securely in your land. V'natati shalom ba'aretz, I will grant peace in the land. A different ending than the book of Joel, and a very important one. Rashi writes, you might find yourself in the situation to say, here is the food, and here is the drink, but if we don't have peace, we don't have anything. This is why the promise of peace appears as the capstone to this list. V'natati shalom ba'aretz. From this, he continues, we learn that peace counterbalances everything else. Osei shalom, uvarei etakol. Grant us peace, O Eternal One, your most precious gift. If you're wondering how I'm doing, well, friends, I'll admit there have been good days where shalom is the dominant side of the scale, and there have been moments where hakol, everything else possible, has started raining down. Wednesday, I received an email inviting me to a webinar, which was to start in 1 hour and 43 minutes after my inbox went ding. I did, a few minutes late, and with an earbud in upstairs in my kitchen, I listened to a polished presentation by the amazing and visionary educator, Michelle Shapiro-Abraham. Rabbis Rick Jacobs and Leora Kay, and many others were on the call. In fact, some of my friends from that first Nifty Kala were there. As we listen to what was the first of what will be 8 webinars, some are continuing on through Monday. You can find the information of how to join at the Nifty Future website. And you should visit that website for more depth and background to what I'm only going to touch on in a few moments that we have, the few moments that we have together here right now. In short, we all knew that when the Union for Reform Judaism announced that it was closing its summer camps, it would have painful implications for the movement, estimated by some to be in the ballpark of half of the URJ's budget for this year. But what many of us had not anticipated was that Nifty's current staff and some of its structure would be another COVID victim. Now, friends, please know that in Toronto, we will be fine. The CCRJ is supported by our Canadian congregations. And while as of June 30th, we'll no longer have a regional youth director, we have a strong network of directors at all of our synagogues who were recently awarded a number of grants from our UJA to invest in our teens' youth engagement in this city. At Holy Blossom Temple, friends, we are truly, truly, truly blessed to have Lisa Eisenbaumel as our Director of Youth Engagement and are really in fantastic hands. And I know and have no doubt that Nifty as a whole will be fine, but different. Right now, Nifty is moving into a period of co-creation with our teams towards what is next. And though we will have 4 youth advisors for 19 regions, one headline is that our URJ camps are moving into position as they were before this crisis as the regional teen training hubs. I personally am in an interesting position amongst all of this. In addition to representing you, us here at Holy Blossom Temple, and working for the interests of our teens specifically, I also serve on the Youth Advisory Group for the World Union for Progressive Judaism and Netzer Olami, along with a former Nifty president, Andrew Keene. I have met some of the amazing teenagers who currently head Nifty and know they are strong for this challenge. And I have the perspective to have worked in and visited other camping and youth engagement structures within our world movement, which work on much leaner budgets, while working also at a very high level of learning and Jewish engagement. And I know that we will come out okay. But right now, we are not okay. Our high schoolers, who were in mourning over prom and graduation, are also in mourning now for their youth advisors and for some of the gatherings in the next year, which were planned by the North American Federation of Temple Youth. They're worried about the future of the groups they care so much about. Our member, Aubrey Zimmerman's niece and former NIFTY director, Nicole Zimmerman Berkman, co-wrote an article on mourning this moment with the teens that she works with. In this article, the teens ask us, stop sharing your stories and pictures of the things we're missing out on. Your graduation pictures are lovely, but we wish we had our own. They ask us to stop processing our grief in their presence and let them grieve in their own way. And they ask us to remember that there still is the possibility of joy in transition. These teens write, this virus isn't only taking things away from us, it is also giving us a lot. It is giving us extra time to spend with family before leaving home. It is giving us an opportunity to create memories we never would have had. It is allowing us to connect with family and friends in a way we would have never considered. We will continue to mourn the memories that will never be, but that doesn't mean we aren't grateful for the memories we are creating that we will never forget. Help us make this time special. Instead of apologizing for the memories we won't have, make new ones with us. Right now, we are in the transition, we are in the storm. I listened to that webinar sitting on a low stool on the floor of my kitchen with one earbud in and two small children passing the other earbud back and forth so they could listen in, all the while constantly trying to unmute me on the webinar. Right now, even as our province and the world around us is first starting to see rays of light being forced through the clouds, and even as we are starting to imagine a different tomorrow, we are still truly in the midst of the storm. Here's a text that the educator overseeing this transition, Michelle Shapiro-Abraham, shared just before Shabbat, which she credits the current NIFTY president, Maya Levy, with teaching her. It was written by Walida Imarsha, the co-editor of Octavia's Brood. Nature has taught me about fluid adaptability, about not only weathering storms, but also using howling winds to spread seeds wide, torrential rains to nurture roots so they can grow deeper and stronger. Nature has taught me that a storm can be used to clear out branches that are dying, to let go to that which was keeping us from growing in new directions. The only lasting truth is change. We will face social and political storms we could not even imagine. The question becomes not just how do we survive them, but how do we prepare so that when we do suddenly find ourselves in the midst of an unexpected onslaught, we can capture the potential, the possibilities inherent in the chaos, and ride it like dawn skimming the horizon. If you follow my laws and faithfully observe my commandments, if you do your best, I will grant you rain in their seasons, so that the earth shall yield its produce and the trees of the field their fruit. You shall eat your fill of bread and dwell securely in your land. V'natati shalom ba'aretz. I will grant peace in the land. Like the prophet Joel, I have always read this first part as an act of partnership with God. If we guard our earth and each other, if we work for the best intentions, then we will work so that bounty will come. But bounty is not enough. Physical wealth and an abundance of plenty is not the goal, is never the true goal. V'natati shalom ba'aretz. The true goal is the goal of wholeness, of confidence and security in mind and body. For many of us, this is a process of constant storms and evolution, of leaving and becoming, of journeying together in support of one another towards a goal of wholeness once more. I want to bring us back to where I am now in my mind, to that main room of Camp Kutz, sitting outside of the offices on the floor in a spiral. Each kiss can no longer reach the cheek of someone to be ordained, because we no longer have Camp Kutz. That Kala is no longer able to run without staff, and the next generation of leaders evaporates before our eyes. And so we worry, and worry can lead to infighting, and worry and anger are parts of mourning what was, and we jump to competing conclusions, and we jump to divisiveness. So let's just recognize that we are in this storm together. With the words of our parsha and the words of Joel, Natati Shalom Ba'aretz. The Kabbalists teach that there is a secret hidden meaning to the word Shalom Ba'aretz, that they refer to the Shabbat candlesticks, Shamor V'Zachor, and that the candlesticks refer to two words, Shalom Bayit. I pray now for Shalom Ba'aretz, peace in the land of Israel, wholeness in our reform movement during this difficult time of transition, and wholeness Ba'bayit, Shalom to enter into each one of our homes and each one of our hearts. And then, the old will dream dreams, and the youth shall see visions, and our hopes shall rise up to the sky. We must live for today. We must build for tomorrow. Give us time. Give us strength. Give us life. So may God's will match our own. Ken Yehi Ratzon.